I'll never forget the look on Karen's face as red and blue lights splashed across her perfectly manicured lawn. She stood at the edge of her driveway, arms crossed, a smug smile glued to her face as she dramatically pointed toward our newly installed security gate. This was her moment, her grand finale after weeks of escalating harassment. 2 police officers stepped out of their cruiser, moving with slow caution. From my home office, I watched the scene unfold through our security camera feed. One officer presses earpiece, listening closely to dispatch. Then his expression shifted from concern to confusion, and finally to irritation. "Ma'am," he said, firm and unmoved, "dispatch is reporting this as a false call. There's no emergency at this address." Karen's jaw dropped. "That's impossible." I heard screaming. "There's something suspicious going on in there." Her voice rose to that shrill, theatrical pitch I'd come to dread. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the dispatcher who had taken her 911 call was my wife, Elaine. She'd recognized Karen's voice instantly. Elaine and I had only moved into our dream home 3 months earlier. It sat on the edge of Oakwood Estates, a beautiful property with a view, technically outside of the HOA's jurisdiction. The realtor and prior owners made that very clear. Our home was on private land, not subject to HOA rules. But that hadn't stopped Karen Wilkins, the self-appointed president of the Oakwood Estates HOA, from trying to enforce her made-up mandates. It all started with a friendly knock at the door just a week after we moved in. There she stood, clipboard in hand, saccharine smile painted on like war paint. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said sweetly, though her eyes were already scanning our lawn like a code enforcer. "I just wanted to let you know your mailbox doesn't meet community standards. You'll need to replace it within 7 days." I smiled politely and explained we weren't part of the HOA, even offered to show her the legal documentation. She waved it off like a child showing a crayon drawing. "That's a common misconception," she said with a condescending laugh. "All homes in this visual corridor are subject to aesthetic oversight. I'll leave you a copy of our rule book." Before I could respond, she shoved a thick, 3-ring binder into my hands. Over 100 pages of hyperspecific nonsense. Rules about paint shades, only 3 approved beiges, lighting wattage, and even the height limit for garden gnomes. From there, things escalated quickly. 1 week it was complaints about our landscaping. The next, our porch lights were too bright. Every time, I calmly reminded her that we weren't under her jurisdiction. And every time, she grew more agitated. Eventually, she began taping fake violation notices to our mailbox, snapping photos of our home from the street, and once even blocked our driveway with her golf cart. Yes, really, while measuring our hedges with a tape measure. When I politely asked her to leave, she gave me a 20-minute lecture on community responsibility. The final straw? A certified letter claiming we owed $750 in HOA fines. That's when I decided enough was enough. I had a wrought iron security gate installed at the end of our driveway. Nothing dramatic, just a keypad and an intercom, but it sent a message. Our home was private. Karen was furious. She left angry voicemails demanding our gate code for emergency access, quoted fake bylaws, and even threatened to sue. My wife began documenting everything. Every voicemail, every note. She even suggested we might need a restraining order. Then came the morning everything changed. I was working from home when the gate buzzer went berserk. Karen stood at the entrance, mashing the button like she was trying to break it, her face locked in a scowl of righteous fury. I reluctantly answered through the intercom. "You need to open this gate immediately," she snapped. "I've received complaint and need to conduct an inspection." "Karen," I replied as calmly as I could, "we're not part of the HOA. You have no authority here. Please stop harassing us." Her face twisted with fury. "Don't you dare tell me what my authority is. I've been president of this association for 10 years. I ended the call. Not 5 minutes later, the police arrived. "Open this gate now, or there will be consequences," Karen snapped, her tone icy with entitlement. I sighed, trying to stay calm. "Karen, I'm working. Please leave our property, or I'll have to report you for harassment." "You'll regret this," she hissed before storming off toward her golf cart. I assumed that would be the end of it. For the day, at least. I was wrong. Barely 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a movement alert from our security system. I pulled up the camera feed and saw Karen back at the gate, on her phone, pacing and gesturing wildly toward our house. Curious and more than a little uneasy, I turned up the audio. "Yes, I need police immediately," she said to the 911 dispatcher. "I heard screaming from inside the house, and now they won't open the gate. I think someone might be hurt. The address is 4287 Oakwood Drive." My blood ran cold. She had just filed a false emergency report. Panicked, I tried calling my wife, Elaine, who was working dispatch that day, but she didn't answer. She couldn't. Personal calls weren't allowed while she was on duty. All I could do was wait as Karen paced in front of our gate, occasionally glancing up at the camera with a smug, triumphant expression. What I didn't know at the time was that Elaine had answered Karen's 911 call. She recognized Karen's voice instantly. How could she not? After months of harassment, Karen's screechy tone was practically etched into our brains. More importantly, Elaine recognized the address and knew there was no emergency. Though she couldn't legally dismiss the call outright, she did the next best thing, flagged it as suspicious, labeled the caller as a known harasser, and downgraded the call to a welfare check rather than an emergency. 10 minutes later, a police cruiser rolled up to the gate. Karen pounced like a vulture, rushing over to the officers and pointing dramatically at our house. I decided to meet them outside. I entered the gate code, walked out to the front, and closed the gate behind me. "Officers, I'm the homeowner," I said, holding out my ID. "There's no emergency here. This woman has been harassing us for months because we refuse to comply with HOA rules that don't apply to us." One officer gave me a nod, touching his earpiece to listen to a message coming through. His expression shifted as he processed what he heard. "Sir," he asked, "is your wife Elaine Miller?" I nodded. "Yes, she's working dispatch today." She provided context for this call. The officer explained, turning to Karen, whose smug demeanor had begun to crack. "Ma'am, did you call 911 and report screaming and a possible emergency at this residence?" Karen lifted her chin. "Yes, they wouldn't open the gate, and I definitely heard something. There could be someone hurt in there." The officer's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, the dispatcher who took your call is the homeowner's wife. She's informed us that you've been repeatedly harassing this family over HOA issues despite their property being outside your jurisdiction. She also confirmed there was no emergency when you called. Karen,